Hello to everybody listening to the music of the world around them when they walk. You'll know what that means. It's Beautiful Anonymous. 1 hour, one phone call, no names, no holds barred.
I'd rather go one-on-one. I think it'll be more fun, and I'll get to know you, and you'll get to know me.
Hi everybody, Chris Gethard here, and if you're not into the intros, you're going to want to skip about 5 or 6 minutes ahead. That'll get you right towards the beginning of the phone call. Enjoy it. Hi everybody, Chris Gethard here, and welcome to another episode of Beautiful Anonymous. Fun fact, I'm recording this on Monday, November 4th. You are probably downloading it on or after November 12th. Point being, we have had a few episodes that dealt with the election, and this is not addressing it, which one would think it would be doing, but I've got a very busy week, and we're recording this early, and part of that is because if things get really chaotic, I want to reserve the right to just go feel weird. So hopefully I haven't just spent a week feeling weird, but we're going to get everything out of the way, all the recordings, so that if stuff gets weird, we can just feel weird, and Andrea and I don't have to force tapings into that schedule. Anyway, hope everyone's doing well. Hope everybody is, no matter what happened, feeling some sweet release from the tension of recent weeks in America. Although, who knows, maybe this week has gone so haywire that I'm recording this ahead of time, and this feels like a nice little antiquated look back at when things weren't haywire. I have no idea. What I do know is that we have a great call for you this week. It is with a caller who's just, again, good vibes. I think a lot of people would agree. There's been producers of the show over the years, and the High Priestess, Andrea Quinn, is really, really great at just sensing good vibes. I would say that that's Andrea's superpower when it comes to call screening. Speaking of call screening, by the way, beautifulanonymous.com. I try not to push it too hard down your throats, because that's no fun. I will tell you that as of this recording, we have 945 people signed up for it. Thank you for that. We're pushing 1,000. That would be super cool to get there. And this week, in the 5 questions that we always do as part of our bonus materials, the caller does give advice about how to get on the show. So that's quite interesting. How to manipulate Andrea into letting you on the show. So if you've ever wanted to call the show, or you're someone who tries a lot, you might be interested in that. Beautifulanonymous.com to sign up. This call is, I tell you, I like it for a few reasons. One, our caller has such a good head on their shoulders and is thinking about career, is thinking about where they were maybe headed, where they have landed, where they would like to go. Those things don't necessarily all align perfectly, wants some advice. And it's so interesting because in many ways, this show was predicated on a conversation just like that. The very first episode of this show that we titled Ron Paul's Baby was with someone in a similar headspace. Not exactly the same, but similar. And I think you're going to hear how 8 years of life experience, from having a kid to a mortgage to a pandemic, has changed me a little bit, but also how I think a lot of the same ethics are still right there in the center of stuff. And we talk a lot about that. What's the responsible way to make sure that you live a life with no regrets and that you go for all the things you want to go for in life, where you don't get to your deathbed someday and just shake your head because you took no chances? But also, what if things feel pretty solid right now, just not that exciting? What do you do in that case? It's something that I think a lot of us run into. And then there's also just so many tangents along the way. We talk about one of my favorite young comedians, Keegan Tyndall. We talk about the power of chaos. We talk about growing up in a Middle Eastern family and not fulfilling every wish and desire that one's parents have. There are shout outs to Parade Girl that will make Parade Girl very happy, that just knowing the smirk that will come over Parade Girl's face, that she's still getting shout outs on this show. sickens me to my core. No, it does not. Parade Girl is nice and funny. And there's also a point where I get to giggle a little bit and tell you what my shrink has said about speaking about ADD on this show and conversations I've had with Barb about that. Point being, there's so many fun tangents and then a nice little spine about chasing dreams, paying rent, and how all those things balance together. I think you might really like it. And if it's been a long headache of a week, I hope that this good vibe caller brings some of those good vibes to you and it helps break some of that tension.
Thank you for calling Beautiful Anonymous. A beeping noise will indicate when you are on the show with the host.
Hello?
Hey.
Is this Mr. Gethard?
It is. Thank you so much for showing me the proper respect finally on this show.
I've always dreamed, I've planned this for months, Chris, of how I'm going to say that. Because everybody says, is this Chris? And I was like, I'm going to hit him with a curveball. Let's see how he feels. I'm glad you liked it.
I did. It is bringing back memories. There was one episode where a person kept referring to me as Christopher, and I kind of flipped out. I forget which episode that was. And I was like, I was like, really, only my mom calls me Christopher. Sometimes my wife, if she's upset. I was like that. If you could just call me Chris or Geth, even like, I forget what the episode was. If I was just having a bad day or if it was manipulative, but I kind of lost it. But Mr. Gethard makes me feel good. Like finally, after all these years, someone is showing me formalized respect. Thank you for that.
You're very welcome. And it kind of represents your arc. I feel like on the podcast, you've gone from everybody's favorite indie rocker, indie comedian guy to like everybody's favorite sad dad. And I mean that fully complimentary, to be clear. So I think Mr. Gethard is a title you've earned.
Thank you so much. I will say at the first half of your sentence, I said in my head, I went, the second half of this might hurt my feelings. And it stung a little bit. But
I did my best.
No, I could hear you. I also felt you sense it. And then I felt you also couch it in some love, so I'll accept it. Andrea is wondering, are you on speakerphone right now?
I'm not. I'm on AirPods.
Oh, maybe we could try it without the AirPods, if you don't mind.
Yeah, let me switch to speakerphone. Would that be better, you think?
I think Andrea, the producer brain of Andrea's typing out the word up to his face like a phone call, please.
Got it. I'll do that right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Sad dad. I used to be an indie comedian and now I'm a sad dad.
Well, now you're both, Chris. That's the difference.
It's true. I thought you were taking your AirPods out and couldn't hear me. No, but it's true. You sound so much better.
That was pretty quick, Chris. I got him out.
Good. Yeah, you sound a lot better, quality-wise.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. I had the pleasure of seeing you in Somerville recently. That was an incredible show.
Oh, thanks. I loved that space, the Crystal Ballroom. Really great spot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of intimate. Like I don't go to that Somerville area. It's a very artsy area, as you I think pointed out. And like Keegan was really funny and interesting. I love seeing the new types of comics. And then Eddie Pepitone, fascinating, truly fascinating type of comedy.
Yeah.
I've never really witnessed live before.
I'm so glad you brought him up. So a couple things about it. Crystal Ballroom, Somerville, Massachusetts. I have been in venues that are a little fancy. I've been in a lot of venues that feel like sawdust on the floor, gritty. I don't know if I've ever been in one that simultaneously feels like both in a way that the Crystal Ballroom, like it felt a little fancy, but it did not feel pretentious at all. And that was such a good mix.
Yeah.
Such a good mix. And then, yes, Keegan Tyndall, comedian that all of you are going to know. Young guy, working his butt off. Really, really funny. Crushing it on TikTok with sketch comedy. Every time he does stand-up, he gets better. Every time I watch him, he's better. Young, charming guy. And then Eddie Pepitone is a legend in the game. So Keegan's in his mid-20s. I'm in my 40s. Eddie's in his 60s. Eddie got a standing ovation that night. And I really feel like the audience on that tour, we were all joking constantly on our drives of like, oh, it's like they get to watch 3 generations of mental illness. You get to see how mental illness has affected 3 generations of men. in their 20s, 40s, and 60s.
That's exactly right. And what I think is it's different types of comedy too. It's not just it's mental illness. It's but like Eddie's bit, I think, because for those who don't know, I guess like Eddie Pepitone, he's like he's playing a character in a way, but it's also I can't tell how much of it is real, and that's the fun of it, and I love that. But he slips in and out of it in ways that are like really captivating.
Yeah, he's a sweet guy, but he's also a very fatalistic, ranting man. And that's true in real life. Like, it would not be uncommon for us to just be on the road out to lunch together, and all of a sudden Eddie's talking about how global warming is something that's already past a tipping point, and we as society have screwed it up, and there's no fixing it. But I would say he really cranks that side of himself up on stage. And it's fascinating to watch. And I feel lucky I was on the road with both of them. And yeah, thanks for coming out and supporting. And yeah, Keegan, I was so happy to bring Keegan out too. Because again, everybody, check out that name, Keegan Tyndall. He's also, his backstory, he's lived through a lot, even though he's very young. And an extraordinarily funny guy and so easy to root for.
Yeah, if you Google him, you get more information about his sort of health situation and incidents than you do about his comedy. And it's like,
yeah,
it's a lot going on.
He doesn't lean on it too hard, but he was in a car accident in his early 20s where he, you know, this is on record. You can find him talking about it on podcasts. He was burned, and he has visible scarring from his accident. And he's just this guy that has a really hard Jersey work ethic, and on top of it, almost died very legitimately. So I think he is just not looking to waste a second that he's on Earth. I think he wants to go out there and live life and make stuff happen. And I'm telling you, everybody, I always tell people who are going to be the big comedians about a year or two out from when they break, this is the next one, Keegan Tyndall.
He's pretty. This is my last point, and then I want to talk to you about you and us, and we'll have our whole thing. But like,
I like that.
He walked around the audience briefly before going on, and he, you know, as you know, like comics, when you're not on, you just kind of look apathetic a little bit, and he's just looking chill. He's walking through. Nobody recognized him. I recognized him because I did my Googling beforehand.
Is this Keegan or
and
Eddie?
I was like, this is like if a celebrity. This is Keegan, and I'm like, this is like if a celebrity just walks through and nobody recognized them. For me, this is huge. Like, he's just very humble.
That's nice. Yes, a good person, fun to root for, and I'm glad we get to plug him a little bit on the show organically, not forcing it. You came out to the show. Yeah. Thank you.
Of course. So, Chris, how's your Halloween plans going? Are you and Cal and Hallie doing anything cool this year?
Well, Cal always helps me set up my decorations on the lawn. We've gone really big. Listeners who listened a few weeks ago know I talked with another Halloween decoration enthusiast. Very fun episode. I did buy a number of items from one of the websites that caller gave me a tip on. My lawn is better than ever. Cal loves helping me set it up. We also have latex zombie babies that Hallie doesn't like going out until a couple days before Halloween. We set up the zombie babies last night. Loving it. As far as Halloween itself goes, Cal has decided we will be a family of vampires. So the costumes are bought. I realized I have to go get some black pants that fit. I don't have black pants that fit. And I went and bought the black hairspray, which Hallie was like, that hairspray is like aerosol being sprayed for one day, and then you just get in the shower and it makes a big mess getting it out. And I said, yes. And I know that you don't like it, and I'm with you, and I love the earth as well. But man, if our 5-year-old wants to be a vampire, I want to give him black hair. So I did it. I got the hairspray. That's where we're at.
Amazing. I'm excited. I hope, I don't know if y'all are going to post those online or you want that to be private, but that's a really cute costume idea, I think.
Yeah. When the kid gets an idea in his head, he goes for it.
That's so sweet.
How about you? Any big Halloween plans?
Yeah. So I guess we're recording this on the 29th, and today I'm going after work to the local Party City, and I'm just going to dig through their, like, whatever's left, basically, and find something that I'm a bigger person. So, I have a smaller pool of things that I can fit into, especially with costumes, I've noticed. So So just whatever I can find. I checked their website and I said I might be Shaggy from Scooby-Doo this year. I can do the voice. You can do a mean Shaggy impression.
Let's hear it.
So
We got to hear it. You can't just say that and not do it.
Oh, God. I totally walked into that, didn't I? Like, Scoob, you got to get out of here. Your silence speaks volumes, Chris.
Quality Shaggy. Quality Shaggy.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, well done.
Thanks. And then, I'm going to a Halloween party on Friday. I'm not a big party person. I'm the average beautiful anonymous listener, which means that I'm an introverted, lonely queer person. So I'm like going out of my comfort zone a lot the last couple of years, which I guess is part of my sort of backstory that I was talking to Andrea about, my lore.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're forcing yourself to go to a party, even though you're not much of a party person. I know that feeling quite well.
Yeah, I just feel like, my best friend always says everything in life is either a good thing or a good story. And, I just turned 30. And so I always try to find, as I'm still single, a lot of my friends are either married or in relationships. So I'm like, I want to be the fountain of good stories for now before life starts to settle and look the same for a while. Like just invite a little bit of chaos, a little bit of warmth and fun into my life whenever I can.
So that's kind of
that. My running mantra, yeah.
I feel like that is quietly what your 30s are about now. It used to be like, all right, you're in your 30s, grow up, make some real choices. I feel like quietly, and I lived this, our 30s have become more about like, okay, your 20s, you had to figure out how to stand on your own 2 feet. And this is not for everybody, but I would say in broad strokes, you figured out how to stand on your own 2 feet throughout your 20s. You sorted out whatever your particular mental imbalances are. You're at least aware of them and working towards them. You're probably a little more well-adjusted than you were 5 or 6 years ago. Now, let your 30s, especially the first half of your 30s, be what's it like to go out as a slightly more self-assured version of myself and have some fun, invite some chaos, knowing that I'm in a mental state that I can probably sort that out a little better than I could have 6 or 7 years ago. It's a great thing.
It's well said, too. And because I feel like you talk about this a lot on the show, but there's always this pressure in your 20s to do those things. And it's like you said, I'm not ready. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to walk on my own 2 feet. I mean, I am a bit of a late bloomer, so I moved out from my parents at 28, fun fact. And so I'm just now finally figuring out what it means to live alone and to have that independence. And it's like, the average American probably had most of this happen to them at 18, 19. And to do it 10 years later can sometimes feel like, maybe I missed out, but, it's never too late to live your life is what I always remind myself.
I'm glad you're getting there. Now, let me ask you, you said you're inviting a little bit of chaos in. What form does that take for you?
That's a great question. I think it's kind of like being a yes, like I say yes to things. You say yes before you overthink them. I'm also a pretty anxious person and I tend to overthink things. So when I say invite chaos, it's like, so two weekends ago, here's a great example. It was Friday night and I wanted to go somewhere, just be around people. I just moved to this studio apartment and I need to be around humans or else I, suffer the consequence. And I texted a friend and she said, I'm actually not free tonight, but my friend is and her friends are. And I'm like, oh God, I'm hanging out with friends of friends. Is that going to be the life that I choose to live tonight? And I did. And I had a great time, Chris. We went dancing, went to this disco night and, went out drinking afterwards and everybody really liked me. And they invited me to a party this next weekend. And I'm like, 10 years ago, I would have never done this. It's like, oh, I don't know anybody there. Absolutely. I'm not going. I'll stay in and play video games. But that was an example of inviting a little bit of chaos and coming out on the other side happy I did it.
Okay. I have some reactions, which is A, kudos to you. B, hard to make new friends when you are 30. And C,
yeah, big time.
I feel like there's probably a lot of people listening who are having this kind of whiplash effect of reactions that I'm having as well. Where on one hand, I'm going going out with friends of friends, is that really chaos? And then as I'm thinking it, I'm going, it's actually a nightmare. That actually sounds like a nightmare of mine. Going to some public place and being like, hey, are you Judy's friend? And they're like, yeah. Oh yeah, we texted. Thanks for letting me hang. And like, that's an actual nightmare. And then you just took a deep breath and did it, and it worked out.
Well, because I was at their apartment first. It's like, oh, go meet them. The friend who I know was like, I'm not going to be there yet, but you should go first. And it's like, I'm going to the apartment of a person I've never met and meeting her boyfriend, and I can't do this.
What do you do? Do you bring a housewarming gift the first time at that apartment? Do you bring a little fruit basket, a little cheese plate? What do you bring? Or do you just go in? Raw, unadulterated you?
I went in raw and sober. I did bring weed edibles, but like I didn't. Those are just for anybody who's interested.
Goes a long way.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a lot better than a cheese plate. When you show up and you go, if anybody's into it, I have weed. Yeah, turns out easier to make friends when you're supplying them with drugs. Right, and
it wasn't my crowd. I'm starting to realize the more I hang out with different strangers, like what the crowd I really want to be around is. And that was an example of like, these are some, no offense to them, but like mid-20s yuppie people whose parents pay for their apartments and they all work like pretty cushy jobs. Like I just didn't feel at home there. But again, no judgment at all. They were all kind enough and friendly enough.
And you're going to hang out again?
Yeah, I'm going to see them at this Halloween party on Friday. That's correct.
That sounds like it's a rousing success.
I think so. Again, it's just, you need to put yourself out there to keep life interesting. I also have been thinking a lot about like risks and stuff. So this is the thing that I brought up to Andrea, and I was wondering, as the sort of one of the spiritual elders of the Beautiful Anonymous community, if you could give me some advice about my career, especially going into my 30s.
Sure.
You don't have to, but we can talk about it. So my career path is a little weird, Chris. I grew up in a Middle Eastern family, and if you don't know, a lot of immigrant families tend to push their kids into, a certain like slot of careers: medical, law, engineering. And so my parents had kind of nudged me into dentistry actually when I went to college, and I thought it was fine. I really loved science. I loved learning. My college experience was not great, but I learned a lot, and I didn't get into dental school. So I tried and did like, retook classes. And then I'm in my mid-20s, taking classes. I'm feeling depressed. And, I jumped between a couple of jobs, and then I was unemployed for like 6 months. And a friend recommended that I get a temp job. And so I got a temp job with the state, with the local state government. And I was making security badges right before the pandemic. So like late 2019. And I kind of fumbled around in that, and that was a cushy enough, comfortable job for a while. And during COVID, because I was in an office with no people in it, I did what anybody in their late 20s does, and I signed up for grad school. I specifically wanted to get an MBA because I am a podcaster in my free time, and I wanted to do the business side of that, to learn how to do the business side of podcasting and marketing. So, moral of the story, I got my MBA, and my job was like, well, now we have to make you full-time because you're overqualified to work here as a temp. So they made me this like finance admin, and they trained me, and I never knew how to do finance stuff. That's not what I thought I would do with my career. And we jump forward to 2024. I've been doing that for 2 years, right? And my supervisor, or the person who was above me as our primary budget person, just quit. He resigned. And now I'm in this situation, Chris, where people are asking me if I want to take her job and, make at least 2.5 times my current income and dig a niche into a career that I never thought I would find myself in. And I'm feeling a lot of imposter syndrome. I'm wondering how you would navigate a situation like that, or what do you think about it?
I have a few reactions. First of all, thank you for recognizing that I'm one of the elders of the Beautiful Anonymous community. I'm wondering...
Again, meant with full respect.
No, I love it. I am wondering who the other ones are. Because I have hosted every episode of the show, except one April Fool's episode where My old friend Harry Nelson hosted it, and people unsubscribed and never came back because they thought I had been betrayed by Harry. It was an April Fool's joke. Actually a bad strategic move that lost us thousands of listeners every week. Who are the other elders of the community? Because you said I'm one of the elders. Yeah. Were you just saying that's to avoid the phrase "the elder," which you thought could hurt my feelings?
No. I meant the elders. There's like a whole cast of characters. So we have you, we have Andrea as the high priestess, we have Harry Nelson and all the other producers and people who've helped on the show in the past.
Okay,
we have this sort of beautiful anonymous. Sorry,
I said I buy it.
Yep. So then we have like the extended community. So we have like Parade Girl, and all Parade Girl's friends are like the sort of elders, not grand elders, but elders. And then we have everybody else who we recognize, and even like the first ever guest, I feel like is an essential part of the community.
Ron Paul's baby. I feel like 39-year-old grandma. Love is everywhere. These are some. Yeah, I buy it that these are some of our elders.
Yeah,
maybe
and I really want to be clear. I don't mean to call everyone old.
No, I understand what you mean. It's less about age and more about status within this community. And I do look forward to seeing the Facebook group's very nerdy analysis of who qualifies as a beautiful anonymous community elder. Although I can't wait for the Instagram DM from Parade Girl with the self-satisfied smugness that she will display that she was the first name you came up with that wasn't me or Andrea. Let's pause right there. You win yet again, Parade Girl, my old nemesis. I hear you laughing all the way to the bank. Speaking of capitalism, hey, we got some ads. Let's go ahead. Let's check them out. We'll be right back. Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here. It's official. We are after Halloween. This means we are on a sprint to the holidays. And guess what? Uncommon Goods is here to remove a lot of the stress from that holiday process with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts that spark joy, wonder, delight, and that feeling where you look at it, you go, that's exactly what I wanted. They have mastered that exact feeling. They scour the globe for original, handmade, absolutely remarkable things. Somehow, they know exactly the perfect gift for every single person you know. And I'm telling you, if you go to uncommongoods.com right now and just start scrolling, it is eerie that you could go right now. And for example, I'm scrolling down right there. You'll just start looking at it and go, man, it's no joke. Just on the front page alone, things will jump out at you that are perfect for the people in your life. Like I'm looking right there, coffee from around the world. Hallie would love that. Optimist desktop sculptures. Those are very cute. Cal would love those. I continue my scroll. First of all, like 19 things that Cal would like. Those breakable chocolate ornaments would be incredible for my brother-in-law and his family. There's all sorts of stuff. And this is just right here on the front page, let alone when you start clicking around the different sections for her, for him, for kids, bestsellers, housewarming, wedding gifts. There's all kinds of really incredible stuff. And when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're also supporting artists and small independent businesses because many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So that also means you don't want to go get the good stuff right away because things sell out. Because this is not some assembly line operation here. This is small, independent businesses and artists making what they make. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful, out-of-the-ordinary gifts anywhere. They even have gifts you can personalize. From holiday host and hostess gifts to the coolest finds for kids to hits for everyone from book lovers to diehard sports fans, Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you could find just anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give back $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date, and I have to tell you, I personally find holiday shopping super stressful. The idea that they have done such an amazing job curating a collection that puts so many good choices in one place, I'm not kidding. I really think you go to Uncommon Goods, you're going to cut your holiday stress and the time you put into shopping in half at minimum. And you might honestly get it all done right there in one shot. It's really incredible. If you want to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/beautiful. That's uncommongoods.com/beautiful for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary. I am so happy to once again tell you how much I love IQBAR products. All of their products are very, very popular in my house. I just had an IQ Mix hydration today. The IQ Mix, by the way, hydration with 3 times as many electrolytes as sports drinks. Not trying to brag, had one today. It also boosts your mood and your mental clarity because there's magnesium in there and lion's mane in there. And if you're working out, it's great for pre-workout. It's great for a hangover. If you're somebody who drinks this, love it. Had it today myself. Here's the other thing that they don't put in the copy. Straight up, it tastes good. Of course, the flagship product, the IQBAR, refuels, nourishes, satisfies hunger with no sugar crash. One of the absolute best grab and goes. If I'm having a busy morning where we're trying to get Cal out the door for school and got to get him to the bus stop and there's appointments and I got to go in one direction and Hallie's got to go in the other and I don't always have time to sit and cook, grab an IQBAR, you're good. You're solid. Absolutely incredible. Snacks in between meals, that's what you need. And I know that I've been talking about this a lot. There is nobody who loves IQ Joe on this earth more than my wife, Hallie. She loves it. She calls them coffee sticks. They are called IQ Joe, but in our house, she says, do we have any of the coffee sticks? She loves them. They provide energy without caffeine jitters because the magnesium in there. They also focus on mood and boosting your focus, but they are also just straight up good quality, good tasting products. Start each day right with IQBAR's brain and body boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. Their ultimate sampler pack includes all 3. And right now, IQBAR is offering our listeners an exclusive deal, 20% off all IQBAR products, plus you get free shipping. That ultimate sampler pack is awesome because you can try every product, multiple flavors. You'll get 7 IQ bars, 4 IQ mix sticks, 4 IQ Joe sticks, aka Hallie's coffee sticks. The flavors in there are incredible. By the way, gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, no GMOs, no artificial sweeteners, more fiber, less sugar, less carbs than the alternatives. The flavors on the bars are great. Chocolate sea salt. My favorite's probably the lemon blueberry. The IQ mix has great flavors. Pina colada, lemon lime. I love the blueberry pomegranate. IQ Joe has original black, vanilla spice, cafe mocha, toasted hazelnut. This is the #1 brain and body nutrition bar, hydration mix, and instant coffee in the U.S. Check out IQBAR. They've got over 15,000 5-star reviews and counting. And right now, IQBAR is offering our special podcast listeners 20% off all IQBAR products, plus get free shipping. To get your 20% off, just text BEAUTIFUL to 64,000. Text BEAUTIFUL to 64000. That's BEAUTIFUL to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. Thanks to all of our advertisers. Now let's get back to the phone call. The self-satisfied smugness that she will display, that she was the first name you came up with, that wasn't me or Andrea. Okay, that being said, let's see.
Okay.
Let's see how I feel in the modern day. Because I think everybody knows 8 years ago, I would have been like, this finance thing, it doesn't sound like your heart's in it. Sounds like you've got other swings you want to take.
Yep.
You got to go take those big swings. Mm-hmm. There is a really big part of me that feels that. There's a part of me that knows you want to hear that from a guy like me. There's also a part of me right now going, it sounds like you wound up very unintentionally in a situation where you're doing good enough work that people have solidified you there and see you maybe moving up the ladder there. And there's a part of me sitting here going, groceries are expensive right now. You're living in your own apartment for the first time. That's real. You're 20, you just turned 30 or you're about to turn 30? I know you said you're right there.
I just turned 30, actually.
Turned 30. Is this job offering health insurance? You're no longer on your parents' health insurance. Like, now I'm a father, and I'm also an artist who has had some big ups and some big downs, and I've seen all sides of it. So I'm just rounding out that does this job offer health insurance?
Yeah, it's a state job, so it offers a really cushy union. We love unions here, and it's got great health insurance. Yeah,
I love a good union job. Love a good union job. So, but your heart's not in it.
The thing is, Chris, I don't know what my heart is in besides this podcasting gig, but that has been something I've been doing in my free time for 9 years now, and has never turned into a full-time job. Not that I've pushed super hard for it. I do it to talk to my best friend who lives in New York, but there was a point in my life where I agree with you. I was listening to the first Beautiful Anonymous, and I said to myself, I need to make the pivot and change my career. And like you said, things have changed. Things have gotten expensive, and I've sort of come to understand that it's okay for your hobbies to stay hobbies. They don't have to be your job.
I would agree with that. And also sometimes when a thing you are passionate about that is a passion project becomes a job, it is both a victory, but brings with it headaches and responsibilities and moments of truth that do remove some of the joy from it. Also, not to get to how the sausage is made, but even in the time that I have been podcasting, there was a golden age where it was, I won't say easy, but where there were pathways for independent podcasters to bust out and make a living out of it. And those days are kind of notoriously behind us. There's just a lot more corporate money that's overtaken the pathways in. And you can certainly still bust out and work hard and then also get lucky and be prepared for the luck to strike, and all those things can still be true. But it's not, it was the Wild West. When there used to be a Wild West element of you could go out there and stake a claim and you might strike oil if you just wander out into the podcast wilderness. That's a little bit less done. I would say this, my heart still tells me that 30 is super young, that if you find something that you love and you find something where you go, I will kick myself forever if I don't try it, even if that means burning down this safe choice I have. I still fundamentally am someone that's burn it down, take the chance. But if you are of the mentality of I know I don't love this thing I have, but I don't really know what else I love. And the other thing I love most is this podcast, but I've been doing it for 8 or 9 years, and I'm okay with it being a hobby if that's all it ever becomes. I sit here, I go, do you burn it down just for the sake of burning it down? My inclination is, no, there's no need to do that. But
no.
What I might say is that 30 is still so young. And we were talking up top about how you're still young enough, and you can hear it in your voice. You're still fascinated with this idea of invite in some chaos, be open to it. And what I would say is that even as someone who plays it a little safer than I used to, even as somebody who sees times as a little harder than they were a decade ago for a lot of average people, as far as how much things cost and how much of an uphill climb it is, I would still say my main advice would be to be extraordinarily open to the chances that this world shows you, and just be ready. Not to use weapon imagery, but just have that itchy trigger finger ready, because doesn't sound like you feel particularly bound to what you're doing. So there's a part of me that just goes, well, if you fall in love with somebody who lives in Switzerland, go live in Switzerland. You're young. Try it.
Right.
If you find a job that feels this is totally unsafe, but it might be super exciting, I think you still have a bunch of years where if it's a complete disaster, that there's probably a way to get back on at least a similar track to what you're on now. I don't know that you need to burn it all down. It doesn't sound like you're ripping your hair out like Ron Paul's baby was all those years ago. It doesn't sound like you're sitting around feeling like you're selling your soul by even punching in the morning. So I don't know if there's a need to burn it down, but man, it's also a nice place to be in life where you go, but I could buy a plane ticket tomorrow and wind up halfway across the world, and there's not too many reasons to not, if something seems exciting enough to justify a massive, unpredictable swing.
I think about that and doing that exact thing all the time. I have this memory of going to an airport in 2005, and asking my dad, like, has anybody ever just looked at the board of flights and taken a flight? And he was like, well, logistically, it's really hard because, buying a flight day of is really expensive, but like you could theoretically do it. And I am really enchanted by that idea. That's what I talked about earlier about inviting chaos, is like, even though I want to settle eventually, I truly do, right? Like I want to have a comfortable job and have kids and get married someday and buy a house. A lot of that's not realistic right now. And for now, it's like this job will at least give me the financial stability I need to be able to do something like that or do something chaotic in the future. And like, it's not miserable, right? It's a nice, comfy state job. I'm working with public transit, which I'm a big advocate of. My coworkers are very nice to me. My work is relatively low impact, low stress. I can kind of, if I take this position, make it into something I'm proud of. It has good benefits. Like it's all these things that I was taught that I needed, and now I'm getting them, or I have the opportunity to get them. And it's like, okay, but am I almost forfeiting the opportunity to do what you're saying and embrace even more chaos? Because that's where I found the most joy in my life. I don't know.
I'll also put this out here, and I think you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. But you also, in general, have a demeanor that feels very pleasant, feels very positive. I know you've said you lean more introvert, but you do not strike me as someone who's making enemies in the workplace. If anything, I feel like even if you're introverted in a way where you're at the workplace and you're a little quiet, where people still just probably go like, it's probably happy to have you there. You have a good vibe is the shorthand of what I'm saying. And I have a feeling.
Thank you for saying.
Yeah, no sweat. But I have a feeling that you are of a countenance and you are a team player. Where if you're moving up this chain and everybody's going, oh, cool, good for you. But you turn around to the powers that be who are that level above you someday and go, I got to tell you, I just had an opportunity come up, either personal or professional, and it means that I need to move to South Korea tomorrow. And I think I'd like to just be the type of person that says yes to life, and I'm going to do it. I just have a feeling that you are the type of person that a boss is going to go, I wish I had 2 weeks notice. That kind of screws us up. But that being said, go. I have a feeling you have that effect on people. Am I right or wrong?
I genuinely think you're right, Chris. And for what it's worth, I say introvert because I'm trying to sort of couch myself in the community, but also I don't find the terms introvert and extrovert super useful for myself anymore. When I was younger, I definitely was like 100% indoor kid, introverted. It's just how I was raised, right? But I think it just comes and goes, like I feel comfortable talking to you. I love this community. I love my friends and my family. These are people I can talk to and be very open with, very gregarious with. And yeah, I think at work, I'm the person that people say, I mean, he's here because he's comfortable and he fades into the background a little bit, but we like him. We like having him around. He brings a good demeanor. And the other thing is I feel like I could bring that anywhere. Like, you're right. I've told them, one of my concerns with taking this job is if I'm stuck in it. And they're like, well, you don't have to keep it. Just because it's union, just because it's an important job doesn't mean, you're tanking an entire department by leaving suddenly. We can find another budget analyst. So that's, I guess, validating to think about.
Seems to me like all the answers are right there, which is, it seems like you could keep moving up, making more money, and just keep speaking into existence the idea of, at some point in my life, I'm going to act on that instinct to buy a plane ticket day of. Either literally or probably more realistically in the theoretical sense that that's a certain type of person and that your gears got turning in that conversation back in the day with your dad of, you said it was your dad, right? Of like, can I just buy a plane ticket and go somewhere? And the answer was like, no, it's expensive. People don't really do it. That's not really how this works, but yes, you can. That was clearly a young person realizing that life has some possibilities. And I have a feeling you're going to keep that alive. And I have a feeling that that's going to show up somehow, whether it's related to the job or not. You're going to prove to your younger self that yes, indeed, you were that type of person, whether it's a literal plane ticket or a metaphorical day of plane ticket. That's coming.
Sorry, you got me choking up a little bit, Guess. Thank you for saying that. That means a lot. It means a lot to hear somebody not only who I respect, but also just hear someone else say that, because I talk to my therapist about this a lot, and she's always like, as long as you listen to, your heart, your gut, whatever you want to call it, the thing that tells you what to do every day and what feels good to your body and your soul, then you'll find yourself where you're happy, whether that's, settling somewhere cozy with a wife and kids, and whether that's moving to South Korea, which does sound appealing, by the way. You will find it as long as you keep listening to that little voice inside of you. So I try to keep that voice amplified as much as possible.
And that's the most important thing. That's the most important thing, is to not snuff out that voice and to not invalidate that voice for appearances or for arbitrary reasons like age. To know that that's who you are at your core is ultimately the most important thing. And I also know too, I had a reputation, I think, many years ago in my career for being somebody where things appeared to be very chaotic, and, a lot of things that would come up and people would go, oh, that's crazy. Like, back when I had my TV, oh, this guy's got a public access TV show. Nobody does that. And then, now he's writing books. That's cool. That's different than that. And these things start to come up, and, and then the HBO special. And one thing out there is my life appeared to be very chaotic, but all these things kept happening. They weren't happening randomly. I'm like you. I was someone who went, chaos is fertilizer that makes good things grow for a certain type of person. And I think it sounds like you and I have that in common of, I need things to feel a little unstable so that it kind of shakes the foundation and I can see what grows out of those cracks. And I was also smart enough to go, well, you don't wind up just publishing a book. You work hard and you write it and you do second drafts and you ask for opinions from people on what's working and what's not. And then when something like the TV show started to catch some hype, it meant that I had a little bit of this calling card that I could also turn around to small publishers and go, any interest in publishing a book? Hey, here's an article about my weird comedy. I also got a book.
Right,
I got a manuscript.
Kind of having to sell yourself.
You want to read it? You want to read this thing? And then they go, yeah. Point being, like, you can be someone working this finance job where you look at it and you go, this feels kind of square. I don't feel like in my heart, I am less square than my job, but in America in particular, let alone one thing you brought up before, coming from an immigrant community where, yes, as you mentioned, your family falls into the category of, like, a lot of families that go, your profession is one of the most massively defining things about you. And now you've wound up in a profession where you go, I can't imagine this defining me less. But I was raised in a culture where profession is a key part of who you are. Doesn't mean you can't have other irons in the fire. Doesn't mean you can't be the most lovably weird person in that office, and that at the end of the day, when people are like, anybody want to grab a drink after work, that you can't be the one to turn around and go, no, I can't do that because I'm actually signed up to be taking lessons in the weirdest thing any of you know about. Or no, I have to go meet up with these other people because I'm part of a community that, by the standards of what this is, feels so outlandish and strange. That's another thing. We all let our jobs define us too much.
Right.
Too much. And I've learned that lesson too, where I was always very proud. I always had it in my head. I was like, my whole career, I managed to never have a job that required me to wear a shirt and tie. I never had to wear a suit for work unless it was an actual costume. Wow. It was an actual costume. And I sit there and go, man, I'm proud of that. That says something about me. And I get up there, I go, even being like, I'm the person who never put on a shirt and tie is still me trying to use a job as a definition of me as a person. And that is unhealthy. And we all do it. It's not healthy.
Right. We're not just our jobs. We're not just the thing that we introduce ourselves as. That was the thing when I met those strangers that I found really tough, was communicating, like, and something I navigate with, like, being single, is telling people early on, like, I'm weird. Like, I'm going to tell you that I like do finance for public transit and that I like do podcasts, and that's all fine and good. But like, I'm also like, I have a lot of weird hobbies, and I can make some weird jokes, and like, I'm a good listener. I try to be. These are things that are like core to me that have nothing to do with, you know, the introductory statement that we all give each other.
What are some of your weirder hobbies right now? We're going to pause right there. We're going to hear about our callers' weird hobbies in a second. I'm going to tell you they are right on the border of weird and completely adorable. That's my little teaser for you. You'll hear about it when we get back. How'd you sleep last night? Was it good quality sleep? Was it refreshing? Was it restorative? Or were you tossing and turning? Did you feel too hot? And then later in the night, you feel too cold. You're kicking your feet out to cool them down, and now they're ice cold. That makes you wake up feeling tired and groggy, right? You need good sleep. And if your sleep is not your very best rest, then you got to upgrade. And one simple thing you can do is go get the softest, most luxurious sheets from Boll and Branch. These sheets will immediately change your sleep. They feel breathable, luxuriously soft, and they get softer with every wash. They are made with the finest 100% organic cotton, and you will feel the quality and difference for years to come. I got to tell you, I have a Boll and Branch waffle blanket on my bed right now, and I could honestly talk to you about it for 90 straight minutes. I don't understand how there's a blanket that provides such warmth, but also feels so light on my body. It is a joy to sleep under it. I don't feel like I'm being suffocated or smothered, but I feel like I'm sleeping at exactly the right temperature. And this is all me shooting from the hip. Okay? And you deserve it. You deserve this quality in your life. These buttery soft sheets. This improved sleep, let alone the fact that they also just look good and make a great gift. So you want to impress your house guests, right? Get the Boll and Branch on the guest bed. Get it done. Boll and Branch products are made differently. Boll and Branch products help you sleep better at night. They're made from the finest 100% organic cotton on earth by artisans who earn that pay and respect that they deserve. You got to get the signature hemmed sheet sets. They got designs and colors for every bedroom style and mattress size. These are all season sheets. They have a breathable, unmatched softness to start. They keep getting softer the more that you wash them. There's also the signature gift box, which comes wrapped and ready in a beautiful holiday gift box. So whether this is a gift for you or a loved one, this gorgeous packaging, it's going to make the holiday season even more special. Gift you and your loved ones a better night's sleep with Boll and Branch. And right now, it's their best offer of the entire year, 25% off plus free shipping on your first set of sheets. Head to bollandbranch.com/beautiful. That's Boll and Branch, BOLLANDBRANCH.com/beautiful for 25% off. Limited time only. Exclusions apply. See site for details. Summer's over. That warm weather is finally gone. It was here a concerningly long time, but guess what? It's official. Fall is upon us. Winter's coming. Time to put the flip-flops away. Time to put the board shorts away. Time to upgrade your fall and winter wardrobe with Quince. And Quince, I cannot even stress how much I love it. How much I love it. You need cool weather essentials? Quince has got you. From cozy cashmere sweaters, leather jackets, whatever you need. Quince offers affordable, high-quality essentials, including seasonal must-haves like Mongolian cashmere sweaters from only $60 and comfy pants for any occasion. One of my favorite things about Quince is they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices, along with premium fabrics and finishes, and they partner with them directly, cutting out the cost of the middleman and passing the savings on to you, which means Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands, which I'm telling you, you can tell the parts where I'm getting off the script and going personal. When you go and look at the quality of these products and you realize that they're 50 to 80% cheaper than similar products out there, you're going to lose your mind. You can update your look and you don't need to take out a second mortgage to do it. I'm telling you that I've long talked about my gray sweater from Quince and how it is my confidence sweater. I've had people come up to me at shows sometimes when I'm wearing it and say, that's got to be the Quince sweater. I say, yeah, it is. You can see the confidence oozing off of me. Happy to tell you, I've also rounded out my Quince collection. I also have a charcoal sweater. I now have a charcoal sweater, which is arguably softer and better looking than even the gray sweater, which is saying a lot because that has been the magic feather of my Dumbo-like life experience, that gray sweater. And I now have 2 items from Quince where when I put them on, I know my wife is going to tell me I look cute, and I can go out and I can go to some sort of gathering and I can just look generally good and I can relax because Quince has my back. Upgrade your wardrobe with pieces made to last with Quince. Go to quince.com/beautiful for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/beautiful. You'll get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/beautiful. You can hear it in my voice. I'm not kidding. This stuff is great. Thanks again to everybody who sponsors Beautiful Anonymous. Now let's finish off the phone call. What are some of your weirder hobbies right now?
Oh, that's a great question. I've started collecting different like pictures of trees on my different walks. It's like not really collecting; it's just more like categorizing different shrubbery in this area because I moved to a really cool like historical site on the East Coast, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot of great just like forest stuff. Or, you know, my best friend and I recently got into bird listening. You know, you can bird watching.
Wait, bird
anything
listening?
that gets me outdoors that feels. I just mean like so. Cornell University has an app that lets you like.
Is there separate? There's a thing that's not bird watching; it's bird listening.
No, I think it's just bird watching. But there's an app that lets you listen to a bird call, and it tells you what bird it is, and it tells you all about them. So that's why I think of it in my head as bird listening. But I guess it is just bird watching.
There's so many apps out there that can ID birds by sound. I didn't know about this until right now.
It's pretty cool.
So what, you hold your phone up as a bird is high above you in a tree and it'll tell you there's a red-tailed hawk up there. And then you start to go, oh, shit.
Yes.
Really? It's as simple as that?
Dude.
It's like Shazam, but for birds?
It's called Merlin Bird ID. I'll shout them out because Cornell University made it. Merlin Bird ID. You just literally, Chris, you tell them like what territory of the United States you're in. It's free.
Oh, I'm
downloading
this
an ad
immediately.
And I'll tell you, this is a great tangent. Like going out on my morning, like walking to the bus, for example, and just holding that out and being like, I know what birds are on my walk to the bus in the morning is like such a cool thing to be able to know. Because I think birds are just like the subtle soundtrack of nature that we don't even hear. We passively ignore it. And when you know what to listen for, you're suddenly like, wow, there's music everywhere.
It will change. I have to imagine it changes your fundamental perspective on a walk. You're walking differently. You're no longer tunnel visioned in your own head and your own internal monologue because you're sitting here going, what beautiful gifts will the birds bestow upon me right now? Does this app, and does it ever, can you set it to record the bird calls and like file them?
Yeah, I think it keeps all the ones that you have collected, yes.
And then if you meet other bird nerds, you can be like, here's all the birds I've heard. That sounded like Dr. Seuss. I didn't even mean for that to sound like Dr. Seuss. When you meet the bird nerds, you can say, here's the birds I've heard. Chris. I heard a bird. I am a bird nerd. Here's the birds I've heard, said the bird nerd.
He reminds you that the bird is the word. It's kind of like Pokemon. I don't know if you're familiar, how familiar you are with Pokemon, but it's like,
okay,
you know, check out what I got. I found a red-nested warbler.
You just said something. I have to admit, I don't know why. Just like everybody, I played Pokemon Go when it came out in 2016. And then I said, I'm getting a little too obsessed with this. And then very randomly, maybe 2 months ago, I just downloaded it again and realized that my old profile was still up there. And I've started playing Pokemon Go again, but immediately realized, I think it's actually a very healthy thing for a lot of people. It gets you out walking. For me, I'm getting a little too obsessed with trying to catch and file away new Pokemon. And I'm a 44-year-old father. I can't be doing this.
So do it with birds instead. It's free and it doesn't have any weird microtransactions in it, to my knowledge.
And I live in an area of New Jersey where there's a couple, not too far away, there's a couple of notorious bird watching areas. Maybe this is what's going to turn me into a bird nerd.
Take Cal with you. Be like, hey Cal, check out these birds.
Oh, he would
we can
love
go bird hunting.
He would love it. There is a place in New Jersey.
I think humans have a natural inclination to like categorize things and fixate on those little things. It's a really fun little hobby.
There is a place we've taken Cal in Jersey. I want to shout them out, called the Raptor Trust, where there's injured birds, and they take them in, and they help them heal up, and then if they can survive in the wild, they release them back into the wild. But I'm talking, you can go there and just stand 4 feet away from a straight up eagle. That's not even. Mm-hmm. They used to have an eagle with one eye.
What?
Yeah.
Sounds like something out of a fantasy novel, The One-Eyed Eagle, or it's like the title of a swordsman or something.
Yeah. Andrea just said, I think bird calls are, I love this. I think bird calls are literally good for mental health. It's like an evolution thing. Birds singing means the world is safe and no predators are around. But I could be catching Pokemon if I ignore all that bullshit, Andrea. I could be catching Pokemon.
I could get some candies for my Bulbasaur and put him at the gym and get him high level and, control the convenience store or whatever. I haven't played Pokemon Go in a long time. I had a quick Pokemon Go story that summer that we all played it.
Yeah.
That was really cute. So it was, I don't know what that summer was, but I went to like a local, like I said, I live like in an area with a lot of historical sites, right? And this is when I was still living with my parents, but I went for a walk to play Pokemon, and I was like, 24, 25 or something. And I see these like 8-year-olds sitting by a cairn, right? Like a grave for an old person. I don't know if you're familiar with a cairn, but they're sitting there and I'm like, what are you guys doing? And they're like, well, we're on vacation at my aunt's house and we're playing Pokemon Go. Do you want to take this gym with us? And we're on the same team and we're talking, and I'm like, this is awesome. This is like the dream of this game, is like making friends through Pokemon Go, even though they're children. Like, it was really surreal.
Yeah. Yeah. I always hoped that I would meet some friends as I wandered around the Pokemon areas, but unfortunately it was a solitary activity for me that I started spending too much time on, and I said, I can't. This is playing into all the addictive side of stuff for me. I think you're going to be fine. I think you're going to find a way to have your cake and eat it too. I think you're going to find a way to just have a steady, solid living that you can feel proud of. And on top of it, go on some of life's great adventures. And I just have a feeling you're one of those people who can somehow make both work.
I really pray that is true. I think it is. I mean, it's not like there's a worst case scenario, right? Like, all the life is what you make of it. The point of it is to live it. So yeah, I'm not worried about like, what if I don't? I just want to do that. That sounds really great.
Gotta find ways, whether that is unexpected big swings that take you to far-flung places, or whether it's internal decisions about the types of people you're going to meet, the types of ways you're going to dive into life. You have to. Now, I do have to check in. When you said you didn't get into dental school and your parents had been inching you in that way, were they bummed, or were they able to take a deep breath and be chill about it?
That's a really good question. I think they were pretty chill about it. They pushed to get me into it, and once they realized that it wasn't working, they figured something must be going on, whether it's my mental health, which is most of what it was, or my lack of focus, which was undiagnosed ADHD. Surprise, surprise. Something was not clicking, and I think part of it was, for them and for me, was realizing, if I really wanted to, I could still do it today. I chose to pivot out of it, and that's what they were proud of. Is like, you saw that it wasn't working for you, and you did something else, as opposed to just stagnating or, sitting unemployed for the rest of your life. You said, all right, I'm going to get a job and do something else. I can't just sort of like lay on that failure for the rest of my life.
Kudos to them for having
by
that
now,
attitude.
I'm pretty proud of the decision. Yeah.
Because the cliche, when you start to set up, like traditional immigrant parents from certain parts of the world, engineering, law, medicine, we all are aware of those cliches out there. But the cliche is parents who are unforgiving if that doesn't happen. So to hear that that wasn't the case is very uplifting and breaks the most basic levels of the stereotype, that you hear and see from afar.
Something I really appreciate about my parents, and my mom might be listening to this. Hi, if you are. They've been willing to change over the years. Both of them have changed in big ways where, as we got older, my older sister and I, it's kind of like they did have these like traditional stereotypical expectations for us. And as we get older, and especially after I moved, Chris, I feel like my relationship with them has improved a lot because they're like, well, you made a decision that at the time they weren't super keen on, and you stuck to it. And that's more what they've come to care about is, did you make a choice and commit to it, as opposed to what a lot of young people do, rightfully, which is jump back and forth between 50 different life paths and never commit to anything.
Right. That makes an older generation, especially an older generation that has sacrificed, rip their hair out, I would imagine.
Yeah, I talked to my mom about her coming here and not speaking a lot of English for the first couple of years, and raising my sister like practically alone because my dad had to work so much. And she's like, it only makes sense that I struggled to raise her for a while because it was scary. It's like being a stranger in a strange land, literally. I love asking them about that stuff because I think we can learn a lot from our elders. Whether it's
like
the BA
me.
community elders,
whether
or
it's like me.
Exactly.
Elder.
There you go.
An elder.
I love listening to people, Chris. Like this is why I love this show and why I got into it. Is one of my like sort of podcast dreams was to be an interviewer. Because I think a lot of people, especially older folks, like have so many stories that are not immediately obvious. Like when you first meet them and you get to talking, and if you're a good listener, which is a very tough skill to cultivate, people open up like a book to you. I found that like there's a stereotype amongst my friends that every Uber driver I have loves talking to me because I think I have this air of like I'm somebody you can open up to. And sometimes it's weird, sometimes it's very funny, and sometimes it's kind of tragic. Like I had an Uber driver. This is a quick story. I had an Uber driver who I was asking him, I was going on a date. I was being driven to a date. And I asked him like what he does for fun. He's an older gentleman. And he said he cycles a lot. He's actually a cyclist. And I found out that he was on the Turkish Olympic cycling team in the 80s. And he quit because he couldn't keep up with it. And he regrets quitting. And he moved to America. And he's a single 65-year-old man now.
Incredible. I was once in an Uber with Andrea in, I forget which city, maybe Denver. We were recording live episodes of Beautiful Anonymous, and Andrea said, I've never met someone who is genuinely as introverted as you, who can get into a conversation with an Uber driver faster than you. And I took that to be great praise. I also want to address something, and this is a show-wide thing. It's very funny. You brought something up, and I'll tell you, I had therapy with Barb 3 hours ago, and Barb at one point said to me, she goes, I listened to... She listened to the episode about the guy who sets up Halloween decorations. She said she really liked it, was very charmed by that guy. So if he should hear it, just know that my shrink Barb likes you, sir. But she said at one point he brought up having ADD and you didn't even really address it. And she was like, I was surprised because it's such a huge topic. And it almost seemed like you just like willingly let that one go when it seemed like he wanted to talk about it. And now you have brought up ADD as well. I just want to say, and I'm saying this with love, if we talked about adults having ADD every time it came up on this show, if you listen carefully, every episode would eventually just be about adults with ADD because we are a generation that is truly riddled with and decimated by ADD, ADHD, all these diagnoses. And a lot of people who grew up with it are getting these diagnoses. It's spanning generations as far as people being diagnosed and working on it, both through, things like cognitive behavioral therapy and medications. So I mean no disrespect when I don't jump on ADD as a conversation topic. But like if we had a bingo board of beautiful anonymous topics that frequently come up, I could argue you almost would just put that as the free square in the center. Like I just assume everyone I'm talking to has either diagnosed or undiagnosed ADD, ADHD, some version of them at this point in human history. And I think a lot of that is because we are starting to see what it looks like when you give people little dopamine boxes in their pocket that give them access to all of the world's information and entertainment any moment of any day. We're starting to see that what happens is entire generations of people can't focus for more than 90 seconds at a time, tops.
If that. Yeah. I agree. My best friend's partner is a therapist, and she was really helpful in helping me figure that out about myself. I'm not diagnosed, to be clear. I have specifically decided not to seek diagnosis because I'm not interested in seeking treatment. I have nothing. I think it's awesome that people do. I think that's fantastic. But, it's a spectrum. And that's the truth, is everybody has at least a little bit of it. It's not a do you or don't you. It's everybody has it. It's just an extent to how bad is it for you? How much do you struggle with it? How much does it affect your day-to-day life? And yeah, I think it certainly affects my day-to-day life, and I could work on it more, and I could seek treatment. I just am really hesitant about a lot of that stuff, and that's my own personal bias.
Everybody deals with it at their own pace, their own rate, to their own standards. I also want to be clear.
Yeah.
I am not trying to roll my eyes and say, oh, I hear that all the time, in a way that indicates it's not real. I would say, sadly, every time I hear it, I go, I think it's very real. I think it's societal. I think it's systemic in a way we're not talking about enough. And again, I think so much of it is, I'm of the exact age, and you're younger than I am, where this was already, the train was already rolling down the tracks. But I sit here, I go, when I was a little kid, I was still generally watching CBS, NBC, or ABC. And I remember being 8 or 9 years old, and all of a sudden it was like, hey, you have cable now. I was probably 6 or 7. You have cable. You have 100 channels instead of 3 or 4. And then by the time I'm 12 or 13, it's like, oh, you can get on the internet. You can start to define things. You can start to define things for yourself as far as navigating this balance of information and entertainment. And then you start to see, after, it's very well documented, after 9/11, the news becomes 24 hours, and it's a constant ticker scroll.
Right.
Of, hey, let's jam the news into your head on an endless loop. And you sit here and you go, whether it's, and Andrea's also cautioning me to be very careful now, and as being a good producer, in that I am not someone who can diagnose any of this or speak to it. Is it socially created? Is it an addiction to technology we've created? Is ADD different than that as far as actual brain chemistry? I don't know, but I am never shocked to hear people say that they're dealing with some version of it, and I don't say that to roll my eyes at it or discount it, but to say, I think it's way more across the board than any of us want to admit at this point. And I hope we can change that.
Me too. Yeah. We had a good friend, speaking of cable, we have one of our good friends, he grew up with only basic cable for all of our childhood. And we often would, when we were much younger, would tease him like, you're not watching any of the shows we are. But he grew up one of the calmest and most sort of mentally stable, if you will, of our friend group. Just starting with something as simple as that. Like, his parents never pushed him to get a phone. And it's like, there might be something to that. I mean, he also has since come out and talked about his own mental health diagnoses as an adult. But yeah, he came at it differently.
I grew up with a kid. I'm of the exact generation that the original Nintendo, like Super Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, that Nintendo, it was a huge, huge defining thing for kids my age. And we had this one kid who I went to school with, a friend of mine named Jeremy, a really good friend of mine, and his parents just refused to get him a Nintendo, and he was pissed. He was pissed as a kid. He's like, just get me a fucking Nintendo. Everybody has a Nintendo. All anybody does is play Nintendo. It's a massive part of a childhood for someone born in 1980. He would any birthday party that took place at someone else's house, no matter what activities were planned, he was going to sit and obsessively play Nintendo for hours because he didn't get it at home. And I remember growing up thinking, well, that's so sad that my one friend just doesn't have access to Nintendo, and we all are so defined by Nintendo. And he is now like a highly accomplished diplomat who has worked for the government for many years. And we don't touch base that often, but every time we do, I'm like, well, of course you are doing something that's both good and important and fascinating and takes you to all these different parts of the world. And the rest of us are fucking schlepping it out, trying to sort out our messed up brains because all we did all day, every day was play addictive video games. And your parents were just like, let's not. Kudos to you. Kudos to your folks. Anyway, we're way off track. What's the next adventure going to be? What's your big adventure? What's the one that you're hankering for? This job situation, you're wondering if it's that. What's the thing that you go, here's the thing that I want to speak into existence, and let's say it out loud in the course of this call.
I want to go on cool dates with cool, weird people. I want to like meaningfully pursue romantic and intimate relationships with people I've never met and explore what I like and don't like in that space.
Cool, weird people. What are the cool, weird things you want to find in people you date? What form does this take on in your mind? And I know that's not, it could be anything, but are there any things you have a hankering to get out there and experience?
I think it's people who can pull a lot out of me and that I can in turn pull a lot out of, like people who can listen well, but also hold up a good conversation and are willing to pivot if plans are, changing, and people are willing to, again, like myself, embrace chaos and be flexible and not just say, oh, we're going to meet here and do this and then I'm going to go home. Like people who, because especially like, in this age bracket I found myself in, there's a decent number of people who are like, I am only dating for the purpose of seeking marriage. And it's like, okay, but I need to know that we're both interesting. I can't just do that for the sake of doing it. That would make me go cuckoo bananas. So if any weirdos are out there and you want to go on a date, I'm very, very queer and open to anyone.
You're very what?
Queer and open to all types of people.
So you're dating everybody out there.
Sure, why not?
I don't think anybody's ever done this before. And I do not want to open a can of worms, and we actually should not. But I don't think anyone has ever said on the show, if anyone listening wants to go on a date and is weird, let me know. That's not something I'm willing to entertain because it could end so poorly, and I want no responsibility for it. But I love that you shot your shot. I'm queer. I'm looking for weird people. Reach out. That's a bold thing to say on a podcast that does still have a pretty decent reach. You're going to hear from some oddballs if they can figure out who you are.
Oh, heavens.
Please leave our caller alone, everybody.
Yes. Again, now I don't know if my parents should listen to this because I am not out of the closet to them, but that is okay. It's neither here nor there. I'm male presenting, like I identify as a guy. So it's like, I go on dates and I understand for sure that women have to present a sort of quote unquote normalness or safety to protect themselves around me. And I'm like, all I want to do is encourage you to be your most creative and goofy self. I understand why you don't want to do that on the first date, but I have like said no to second dates because people were too normal. And I feel like I'm judgmental for that, Chris. I don't know how you feel about it.
Can't be out here dating these normies. Well, that's why this job is sticking in your gut so much. You're like, I don't go on second dates if people aren't weird. And then I'm doing this job that couldn't be less weird. That's why it's sticking in your guts, huh?
I think you hit the nail on the head. Are you a hammer? Because you nailed it.
I would love it if my nickname in this community became the Hammer. That would be like a real cool thing, but I don't think anybody would ever.
It's this pull, right? Because on one hand, yes, definitely want to be weird and be around weird people. Surround myself with weirdos. Find your weirdos is the phrase I use a lot. And also, I would eventually like kind of what you have. Like you settle with someone who you love and care about, and build a family together. I think you can have both. I think that's what we're learning on this call is that you don't have to pick one or the other and stick to that permanently. But I'm just navigating that right now.
I'm with you. I love it. I think you got a good head on your shoulders. I think you're going to be fine. I don't think you're the type of person who's going to sit and settle and just live a more quote unquote normal life than you ever imagined. Whether you're working this job to pay the bills or not, you're going to find the weirdos and you're going to find the weird tracks in life and all the excitement you want. And I think that's great. I think it's great. And I'm excited to talk to you again someday because I feel like we'll talk again for a follow-up in a year or so. And you'll have a list of like, here's a bunch of situations I unexpectedly found myself in. Here's a bunch of oddballs that I managed to find and date. And the whole time I also just kept working my way up in this union-backed job that's giving me security. And I'm finding that I can, in fact, have it all. I bet you're going to find it. Or you're going to call me someday and be like, I live in the jungles of Papua New Guinea and I'm on a satellite phone, so I can't talk for a full hour on this update. It costs me $30 a minute. It's going to be one or the other with you, right? It really is.
Oh my God. I'm so looking forward to it either way, no matter which direction that goes. It's like, like I said, I love listening to people and hearing their stories. And I ask people in my department, like, what do you do in your free time, right? I'm a very inquisitive person. And this like state job with all these boring things, boring positions, my boss is a rock star. He did like hard drugs in the 80s and he got settled down and now he's happy here. My supervisor is also a musician. Like a bunch of them are like musicians and actors. And my previous boss is an extra on The Gilded Age on HBO. And it's like all these people work for the state at the same department that I do. So it really goes to show that your job doesn't lock you into,
Best of both
guardrails.
worlds. I love that. Our time is up with the people on the free feed. We're going to say thanks to everybody for listening. And if you want more with this caller and a bunch of our past callers and the private number, which that works out well, right? For the people who use it, the private number once a month, the follow-up with past callers, and ad-free episodes, beautifulanonymous.com will continue. But for now, goodbye, everybody on the free feed. Caller, thank you so much. Thanks for calling up, discussing your professional life, your private life, your goals, your desires, your discontents, the places where you do find peace, all these things that you do. And in general, just for having a pretty cool vibe. Thanks. And thank you to Andrea Quinn for producing the show. Thank you to Shellshag for our theme music. punchup.live/Chris Gethard if you want to know about me and when I'm going on the road. We have a voicemail line. It's at 973-306-4676. The Instagram is Beautiful Anonymous Pod. Join the Facebook group at Beautiful Anonymous, the community. Thanks, everybody. This week on Beautiful Anonymous Plus, here's some of what you'll get from the 5 questions.
Yeah, I want to, I guess now that this is for the Touchstone folks or for the people who support you, the tip I've had, because I've been calling for months, right? And it's like, you guys get the secret tip for getting onto Beautiful Anonymous, is learn to enjoy the journey of getting onto Beautiful Anonymous. Underrated advice, but like, I'm one of the people who only has Twitter on my phone to get these alerts. So I'm so thrilled I get to delete Twitter. This is
You're
great.
You're deleting it.
You're
way. Done with it.
Yeah, I'll keep the account, but I just don't want the app on my phone anymore. It's not bringing me good energy at all.
I do love, that's become a running theme in the show the past years, people saying that. And I'm like, man, this show, reducing Twitter users by one call at a time. That's one of our new functions as a show. Don't forget to sign up for Beautiful Anonymous Plus at beautifulanonymous.com.